Hello again everybody, I hope you're all keeping well. Happy Friday and welcome back to this week's Friday update. Before I get into this video, I'd just like to apologise if I sound a little bit croaky. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so my voice is a little bit different. Now, last week we had quite an unusual heat wave where it was like some days were getting up to 30 degrees Celsius. It was just scorching. I was off work, so I was able to do plenty of jobs at the allotment, like clearing beds ready for winter, general tidying, and of course harvesting as well, because there's a lot of things to be harvested at this time of year. But now I'm back at work this week and the weather has turned much cooler, much more typical for this time of year, middle of September. What I've been doing over the last few days, I've been doing a few more sowings, which I will show you in a moment, just a few little bits. It is probably a little bit late, so I am, trying my chances a little bit, see what I can get away with. Last year I did do these sowings a bit earlier, but we'll see. And also I've taken some more strawberry runners as well for next year's strawberries, because every 2 to 3 years I like to replace some of the strawberry plants, because after around 3 seasons strawberry plants aren't as productive. So, and to be honest, it's just been more clearing really. I've got a lot more of the tomatoes cleared now. In fact, there's only a few plants left, which I think I'm going to clear today actually, because they are looking a little bit, they do need clearing now, I think. A little bit of a disappointing year for tomatoes, although we have achieved a decent crop. I managed to keep my tomato plants into November last year, but this year with the blight, I found that I'm clearing them away a lot earlier. So, there is that. It's not been as good this year. And I'm actually going to move the Christmas potatoes into this big greenhouse here now that it's cooled down a little bit. And you know what? They've actually taken off. I'm really happy with how fast them potatoes are growing. I'm hopeful that we're going to get some really good potatoes come Christmas time. And I'm also going to go around a few areas in the allotment and just show you if there's been any changes from last week. Just the few things which I'm keeping an eye on at the moment. I'm going to just show you, see what's going on there. So I do hope you enjoy. Remember, if you like this video, hit that like button because it really does help support me. Okay, so that's it. That is now the last of the tomatoes cleared from the allotment. That's it now. I managed to salvage these tomatoes here, mostly green ones, which I will be ripening at home. So yeah, it's now cleared. I probably need to just tidy it up a little bit. Got this weed membrane here. I need to put a border down here. I was supposed to do that this year, but I didn't. I just didn't get around to doing it, to be honest. So that is all these buckets of Christmas potatoes all moved into the greenhouse. And yeah, they're really putting on quite a lot of growth now, these. Not so much with the seed potatoes, which I saved from last year's potatoes that I grew. It's these purposely bought seed potatoes at the back here, which are doing best. But nevertheless, I just threw these in as just, old potatoes. And, any crop we get from them will be a bonus. So yeah, they're in the greenhouse now. The reason why I've put them in the greenhouse and not the polytunnel is simply because the polytunnel is much more humid than the greenhouse. The greenhouse hasn't really had a problem with blight this year, so they're quite safe in here really. If I put them in the polytunnel where the blight was, had a really big problem with blight in the polytunnel this year, then these will probably be affected by the blight. Now it may be September, but there are still some things which you can sow. Now on here, a lot of these do say that you can't really sow past August, like this rocket here, so April to August. Mizuna, so March to August. Cabbage, April, July to August. This cos lettuce here does say March to October. But to be honest, all this is just a rough guide really, and I never really go by this guide on the seed packet all too much. Because obviously weather changes every single year and it's always different. I'm going to be sowing a few of these salad leaves for some late harvests through the autumn months. Nothing crazy to be honest. I'm just going to throw a few of these cos lettuces into this trough here. Throw a few in there and I'll just thin them out later on. I'll just thin them out and let 3 or 4 lettuces grow in there. I'll probably use them as a pick as you go lettuce, pick them just for leaves as and when I need them. So in the rocket now, I'm just going to scatter these into these pots of compost. These ones have got fresh compost in. I really like rocket because it's got a nice peppery flavour, which your standard lettuce doesn't have. I do like lettuce, salads to have a bit of flavour in, a bit of oomph. So rocket, really nice. One of those peppery salad leaves with flavour. I really like them. Yes, this is just multi-purpose compost. I'm just throwing it in there. I'm being a little bit lazy with it to be honest, but we're okay. There's no massive lumps in there. It's just a little bit fibrous. But, we shouldn't have much problem here to be honest. So, two pots of rocket, all done. Then we're going to do some winter cabbage. Variety is called April. And we're going to do some Mizuna as well to grow in the polytunnel over the winter, hopefully. Hopefully we get away with growing some. Now, light levels aren't very good on my plot during the winter because we are shaded by the trees. So it's difficult to grow things over the winter on this plot, but hopefully we get away with it. Keep trying every year. I grew some nice winter cabbages last year. We had a nice harvest of cabbages in the spring, so they worked. Actually, I did a video on that last September, you may have watched that, where I planted all the winter cabbages, and yeah, they were a success. Although we did have a bit of a glut of cabbages, I didn't know what to do with all of it, to be honest. I had to freeze some. Yes, April, nice winter cabbage there, pointed heads for spring harvests. Nice one, just for that hunger gap in the spring when there's not really much else growing. Now, as I said before, it does say the latest month you can sow these is August, so it is a little bit late, but hopefully I can get these to a good size before I plant them outside, before it gets too cold. And I'm putting 2 seeds in each module, and then what I do is I thin them out. I cut out the weakest ones, leaving the strongest one to grow on. So this way the ground isn't going fallow over the winter. At least I'm using some of the ground still. There are other things as well I'm going to be planting out, by the way, in the winter. Like garlic, for example. Elephant garlic, normal garlic. They're going to be going in the next couple of weeks, I think. Salads, cabbages, garlic,
I don't bother too much with onions because I've never had any success really with winter onions, and I found that they're not as good as the traditional spring sown onions. And yeah, I found, you know, planting in the autumn for the next year, you don't get any results better than just planting them at Christmas or in the late winter, to be honest. I don't find there's any difference. They always catch up anyway, so I don't tend to bother with winter onions. Okay, so nothing crazy there. I've got some Mizuna, some winter cabbage, some cos lettuce, and some rocket sown here for some nice autumn pickings. Probably is a little bit late, but to be honest, whoever goes by the guide on the seed packet, it's just a rough guide, and sometimes, you know, it's good to experiment and try different things. You'd be surprised at what you can get away with, actually. Some of these strawberry plants actually have flowers and fruit on them. What the heck is going on there? Maybe it's this strange September weather we're having. How weird is that? There's actually a few of them over there. A few plants that have some flowers and strawberries on. Isn't that interesting? Do you guys have strawberries on your strawberry plants in September?
Just look at these nasturtiums on the front of the plot now. I didn't even plant these. These self-seed themselves every single year, and I only actually planted nasturtiums once 3 or 4 years ago when I first took this plot on. But they are just so prolific. Just look at that. I do kind of regret planting these in a way, but I do like to keep some of them, but they always end up going out of control in the end. And the reason why is because they attract these black flies here. They're a good trap plant, keeping black fly off your other plants, and they seem to have done the trick this year because I've noticed that there's no black fly on anything else this year. So, you know, they've done the job. Not only this, you know, if you do want to eat them, they are a good edible flower. The flowers are edible, the leaves are edible, and even the seeds, they're edible as well. These little things, funny looking things, look a little bit like brains, I think. But yes, these can be pickled, similar to how capers are pickled. They're a good substitute, and they can also be dried and ground up and used as an alternative to pepper, because they do have quite a peppery taste. So yeah, there are plenty of uses for nasturtiums, and you know, they are a nice flower. You know, they are nice flowers, but you know, they just absolutely go wild. Look at that, really prolific. And we've still not figured out what we're going to do with these big massive courgettes. Yeah, they've just been left there, and to be honest, they're probably going to get attacked by rodents if I leave them there any longer. So yeah, I do need to do something with them. Yeah, and last week there were a couple of small courgettes here, and look at that. They were like literally tiny things like this, and now look, they're much bigger. In fact, I can probably just get away with eating that as that is, before it gets too big. And last week we also looked at these butternut squashes, and yeah, they were just going crazy with the foliage. You know, they were growing really, really well, but there weren't really much in the way of butternut squashes. You know, there were only two little tiny squashes, to be honest. Shall we see now? Let's have a look how they've done in the last week. So, okay, there is you know, a reasonable, I suppose, bigger courgette, a bigger butternut squash. There, that has grown quite a bit there. Looking around here, okay, there's some smaller ones, quite a few small ones. when you go looking for them, there is actually quite a few knocking around. Actually, there's loads of small ones down here, and these are planted in horse manure. It's a big pile of horse manure. I also stuck some homemade compost in there as well. Yeah, more here, little ones. Yeah, there's plenty of butternut squashes actually. So yeah, maybe this may be the best year for butternut squash yet. Fingers crossed. Our Dill's Atlantic Giant Pumpkin as our single seed challenge. Yes, it's definitely grown. I think it's growing bigger and bigger. Looks like it's ripening actually. It's turning more orange, so it's probably reaching its maximum size. Definitely not a 300 kilogram pumpkin, as it says on the seed packet. That's what it says it can grow up to. But you know, it's a pretty big pumpkin, and yes, we're still going to carve it, and yeah, it'd be quite nice. Now, last week I also showed you these tromboncino squashes, and yeah, some quite good tromboncino squashes there growing nicely. Some there, some down here, quite a few of them. One there as well, there, quite a few around the side here. Nasturtiums here again. Yeah, there's nasturtiums absolutely everywhere, guys. They're just taking over. Nice one there with a flower still on it. Up here, loads of them up there. And this is all just from one plant. Just from one plant. So yeah, pretty impressive amount of tromboncino squashes on this one plant. I do have to say. Peppers, plenty of small-ish green ones everywhere. Loads of them. Loads of green ones. Loads of lush green growth. You know what? I've probably just done too many pepper plants, to be honest. They are quite close together. I might just do a handful of pepper plants next year. I think they're just crowding themselves a little bit. And you know what? I do think that the soil, you know, these beds are new. You know, I did them this year. I put loads of compost in there, loads of horse manure, and they are quite fresh. And I think the problem is there's a lot of nitrogen inside the soil, and that's why there's so much lush leafy growth. But you know, nothing really impressive. There's quite a few flowers actually, mind. But you know, we've not really had many peppers so far, and it's the middle of September, so you know, yeah, I'd expect to be seeing something by now. You know, in 2021 we had a really good year for peppers, and we were picking ripe peppers in August. So you know, I don't know. Some years things do really well, other years not so much. I think the trick is to get the plants as big as you possibly can at home, you know, under cover, and then move them down when temperatures improve. I didn't do that with the peppers this year, but in 2021 I did, and I got a really good harvest. Now I also did that with the aubergines this year. I had these on the windowsill till right to the end of May at home, and you know what? They've done amazing, these aubergines. Still, no change from last week though. You know, loads of flowers everywhere. There is actually some aphids on here. Some aphids on the aubergines, so I do need to spray them, I think. That's a new development. There weren't any aphids on here last week, so yeah. There again, we have had a lot of warm weather, but yeah, loads of flowers. Hopefully some of these will set. Aubergines can be quite finicky and a little bit fussy when it comes to temperature, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so that was my weekly update, 15th of September. I didn't want to do too much of, you know, showing you what's going on with the crops, because, you know, they're not massive changes every single week. Just thought I'd show you a few things which I mentioned last week. And yeah, So this week really is all about just moving the potatoes, the Christmas potatoes, into the greenhouse, clearing the last of the tomatoes, taking a few strawberry runners, and just doing a few more sowings of lettuce and seeing if we can get away with sowing some cabbage to give us a crop next spring. It's a little bit late, but we'll see if we can get away with it. Just an experiment, really. So yeah, that's what we've been up to this week. Next week, I'm going to be planting some garlic in module trays and also elephant garlic as well, as it will be getting to the end of September, which is when I usually plant my garlic. So we're going to be doing that, and I think we're going to stick some daffodils in as well for next spring also. And obviously, as always, this time of year, I'm going to be doing more clearing. It's clearing every single week now for the next few weeks. You know, still got a lot of clearing to do actually. I did make a good start on it. I've done quite a few beds so far, but yeah, there's still so much left to do. So yes, thank you very much for watching. Remember, if you like the video, smash that like button and support me, and also subscribe if you haven't already so you can see when I upload new content every single week. That's all for now. I will see you in the next one. Happy gardening and stay safe.